take advantage of the food. And I wanted to, we're going to introduce a couple people for you. Ask these people questions. They're here to help you understand the kind of that broad field of marketing. And I do ask, at the last Ask the Professional, several students' phones went off, so if you can just take a minute, make sure your phone is off. We'd really appreciate it and give your attention to the panelists. I'm going to turn it over to Assistant Dean Patrick Solomani, and again, we'll be in the back if you have any questions. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Hi.
So I was running from one side of campus to another. It's just been a crazy day, but good things happen. I wanted to thank all of you for joining us today. A very special thank you to the panel. Sure. I know it's a very busy time of the day, very busy time of the year for everybody. One thing I'll mention is that you don't get many of these opportunities, whether it's in your academic careers or in professional careers, to be in the presence of those that are making a difference in industry, that are in a leadership position in industry, being able to hear from them and ask them very important questions. So take advantage of this. And again, thanks for coming. Thank you to the panel. I'd like to introduce our professor for marketing, Brett Josephson, who's going to be here and be moderating the panel today. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks. Awesome. So I think we'll get things started with just a brief introduction from each of the panelists. And then I'm going to get it started with kind of a basic question. Then the purpose of this is to open it up for you guys to ask questions, to be able to have conversation. I'll try to help move it along as best I can, but this is really a good opportunity for you guys to ask real important questions that you think are going to help you succeed in your last couple years as students and then into your future job aspirations. So we'll start with the panel. If you'd just like to introduce yourself, company you work for, titles, all the fun stuff.
Well, I guess we'll pick this up.
Yes.
All right.
You could probably just slide it towards
Yeah, maybe.
There you go.
My name is Byron Van Epps. I'm the president, owner, and CEO of Information Sciences Consulting Incorporated. We're a for-profit company working in the federal contracting space, and I've been doing this work, and this is my fourth company I've built. I've been doing it for 35 years after I retired from the military in 1988. So I'm probably the oldest member here, but I'll try to keep up with everybody.
Hi, everyone. I'm Becky Smith. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Eagle Bank. I've been there for about a year, but the majority of my career for the past 15 years has been on the agency side. I worked in a marketing consulting firm for a lot of Fortune 500 companies, kind of traveling around the world up until recently, where I just had a baby and took my new job. So I have sort of the industry and agency perspective to give to you today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Hugel. I'm actually a recent Mason grad. I studied marketing here, and I'm a communications coordinator with Discovery Communications. We're the parent company for Discovery Channel, TLC, Animal Planet, a lot of really great networks here in the U.S., so I get to work on a lot of fun things like Shark Week. I work in corporate comms on the external side, doing anything from PR, news, marketing, and then digital social. So a really great, diverse team to be on, and I'm excited to be here.
I'll just take that one.
Yeah, great.
Hello, everyone. So if you look through our bios already, you know I have a rather interesting title. When you're your own boss, you can make up your own title. So that's why I'm head kick-ass copywriter and strategist. I have a boutique marketing agency. The reason we're boutique, which sounds like such a throwaway term, is we actually specialize in copywriting and social media marketing. It's very, very, very hard to find good copywriters. And you guys certainly know that. So that's what we do. It's super fun. When I started it, I didn't really know what I wanted the company to become. I was a solopreneur, and now there's 10 of us. I have an assistant, which makes me feel like an adult. And I'm looking forward to hearing your questions.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ashley Kirschmeyer. I am currently a Mason student working within the marketing, or not working with the marketing. I am a marketing student here at Mason. I am also the marketing director at UBT, United Bus Technology. We provide technology solutions to the motor coach industry. I am also a major nerd, and I've been in every industry you could possibly think of before I've even gotten my degree. So I too look forward to your questions.
Right, awesome. So I had already prepped them with the first question, but for this, just kind of repeat it for you guys and then for the audience members. We know that industry is going to look very different 5 years from now than it is today. And so the important thing for our students is to prepare them to be the employee that's going to help a firm succeed as the industry changes. And so for you guys, what do you see as these major characteristics that would define successful employees 5 years from now that are going to really help a firm adapt to changing climates in their industry?
Do you want to go down the line? Or?
No, go ahead. I would do free form.
Sure. So I think the biggest shift across industries, again, I work for a bank now, but I, in my past life, have worked for retail and high tech, healthcare, is data, right? So we have so much more information at our hands as marketers to be able to target at such a granular level, right? You guys get ads all the time that are very specific to what you were just looking at on the internet because we know who you are, we know how to get to you. But with all that data really comes accountability. So from a marketing standpoint, we are constantly on the hook to show what's the return on our marketing investment. We now have all this data at our disposal, so how are we using it? What did it drive for the business? And even as somebody that is 1, 2, 3, 4 years out of their career, I think the best thing that you can do is think very strategically about everything that you're doing for whatever job you land. It's think about it not just from what you're doing right now, but how that might impact you or the business down the line. Everything that you do really is going to have some kind of result tied to it, even the littlest things. So just kind of thinking that through and putting a strategic hat on is, I think, the most important thing in my mind.
Yes, I would. Being a current student, no, excuse me, I'm not talking into the microphone. Being a current student and being also in the industry right now, I've seen a shift between you've gotten a degree for something and it's very specific to you are a master of everything. So my recommendation for students who want to get into the industry and in the next 5 years, what's going to be the most important is being able to pick up skills that you're not necessarily aware that you need right now. So always being open to learning, always open to getting that next certification, getting that next bit of training, always moving forward because marketing is constantly evolving. It's never the same twice. So you have to be able to learn and pick up those new skills at the drop of a hat.
Kind of piggybacking off of what you said. I mean, how long has Snapchat been around? 2 years, maybe, right? And people have to know exactly how to use it in the marketing world if that's who your target market is. So, yeah, absolutely. I agree with Ashley. The thing that I think about all the time is artificial intelligence. There's so many algorithms constantly being developed and refined that can now write like a human. Will humans ever be replaced entirely when it comes to writing? I don't think so. And so what I'm thinking about, for like the next 5 years is how do you bring that personal touch? We work with people that we like. You can't like an algorithm. You can't like a computer. You can't like a machine. It's a thing. It's not a person. Humans, we crave connection with other people. So that's a really big thing. How can you create connections with your clients, with your team members, with vendors, so that you remain integral to their operations?
Let me address it a couple little different angle. If I looked, and remember, I've been doing this for quite some time, and I've worked at IBM, Lockheed Martin, and CSC as a vice president, as well as a senior vice president and a CEO of major corporations. There's really three things I would encourage you to look at. First is the ability to write, the ability to actually express yourself in written form. Social media, and today we see the great tendency, if you will, for knowledge-based systems to be automated. not human. And the challenge is somebody has to set that up. Somebody has to set that capability in place and develop the lingo, if you will, the language, the data that has to be presented. And writing is critical to do that. It has to be very, very strong. And in my business, we do a lot of proposals for the federal government. We're a federal contractor. So we're writing constantly proposals that require us to position our offering in such a way that it satisfies the customer's want, need, or desire. And the hardest thing to do with that is to understand that's communications. And the art of communications involves, as I said, three things. One, skill of writing. Two, graphics. How do you present yourself in a picture form that lets you express what you're trying to convey in a table, data form? I think of Excel all the time, and pivot tables with the data that we use today is amazing. And then last but not least is then the personal appearance. How you present yourself to the client is critical. And we see great success in 5 years from now. It's going to become more, because as we become more machine-centric, the human element becomes ever more required to be developed, to be polished, to be poised and professional. So I'd say look at that and look at the world you work in and become expert at it. Expert in the social media world. You all use Twitter and all the different devices. My grandchildren, come to me and amaze me all the time how they pick things up and do it instantly. I'm sitting there reading, trying to figure out how to do something, and they take it out of the box and they're using it, devices and so forth. So the point is, you have to learn that skill. You have it already. Capitalize on it. Capitalize on it. That's the best thing I can advise.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with what everyone has said. I think for us, especially in media and entertainment, we're always trying to do more with less. So really learning how to capitalize on the entire portfolio of skills that you're learning right now, but don't let the learning stop when your degree comes in the mail. And, for us, every day something's new. We're getting into VR, we're getting into AI, and looking at so many different trends that are up and coming across every industry. And as a marketing professional, the best thing that you can do for yourself is to keep learning your entire life and make sure that you are not up to date on trends, but ahead of the trends, and being able to, stay current on what's happening in the news, what's happening in your industry, and really taking advantage of seeing, okay, what does this mean for us in a year, in 5 years, based on what's happening right now. So don't look in the moment, making yourself the best at the current trends. Try to look ahead and really have a lot of foresight and learn up on that now, so that in a year from now, when your boss comes to you and says, oh, I'm really interested in analytics, you already know that and you're already a master in it and can prove your value on a whole nother dynamic level. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, let's open it up to you guys. Do you guys have any questions so far for our panel? Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are some ways that you are able to grab and hold attention on users through social media, different social media platforms, other than consistency and value?
That's requires a very long answer, so I'm going to try to be brief. It depends on what platform you're using, right? You have to know who your target market is on the different platforms. So a lot of it really comes down to visuals. Every social media platform is visual, every single one. Twitter, too. If you go into your, floodgate of a Twitter stream, videos and photos tend to float up to the top. We don't. What's that?
So just like visual content.
Visual content.
More on kind of strategies that you implement through those platforms. Like for me personally, for example, like the jewelry store. Throughout all platforms, Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah, so you have to know, right, and that goes back to knowing who is actually on those platforms, right? Because you might have different audience segments on each social media platform. So then you're thinking about, what is their top challenge? What is there a question that I can ask to grab their attention? There's formulas for writing headlines. Using the word "this" at the beginning of a headline is proven to grab attention. There's a lot of little tricks. I wish I had 2 hours to dive into an answer for you. We can talk more offline, because that's something that I've actually been writing and talking about lately. Yeah, you're welcome.
I have a question for Byron.
Well, you had your hand up first.
This is a more general question, but when you're looking at a potential internship candidate or job candidate, are there any qualifications or
Let me grab that one real quick, only because we just started an intern program here at George Mason. And in our company right now, I don't know exactly how many, but I know 7 or 8 interns. The thing that we do with the intern program is to help you understand the knowledge while you're in school of what the requirements are in the job market. So it helps you to learn a skill on the intern program before you go to the job market. More importantly, it also gives you exposure, if you will, to some of the skills you might want to brush up on in your senior year, for an example. But yeah, the intern program is very, very important. It's also active in our company, and I'm sure in the other organizations as well.
I'd also like to take a stab at your question. As UBT had actually just closed one of their internship programs, one of the things, your question was, what are some of the things that we're looking for, qualifications, experience? And when I'm looking at an intern, somebody who's coming straight out of college or is currently in college, I'm looking for somebody who has kind of a diverse background. You know, I want to see that not only have you experienced maybe a first job, but possibly even have gone out and done something in the community. I want to see that you're also taking online courses, you know, something in certification. I want to know that you've gone into what we as marketing love to use. You know, we like to use social media. We want to see that you have an extensive background in social media. I personally like marketing automation systems. So you show me that you have at least a little bit of training in HubSpot or Salesforce, you're going to be at the top of my list.
I would say slightly different response. I don't expect an intern out of school to have a ton of experience. That's why you're interning. If your resume is longer than a page, it shouldn't be. You are just adding, right? And I say that even when you're 5 years out of school, right? There's only so much you really need to put in your resume. For me, I'm looking for involvement. You know, are you actively involved in something other than just your studies? Are you part of a sports team? Are you in a fraternity? You know, that just shows that you're willing to be a joiner, that you're open to new experiences. Do you work at the Gap on the weekends? Anything like that, you know, that kind of gets you in the door. And then when you're interviewing, honestly, it's really about the extra things. It's, do you fit culturally? You know, do you not take yourself too seriously? Are you going to, you know, kind of fit in here? But also, did you do something a little bit extra? And that could be, you did a little extra research on our company, or we gave you a case study and you took it in one step further. Those little things totally add up, and also are kind of very much against what the stereotypical millennial, what people are kind of talking about now. It's not expected, and if you do that, it's going to set you apart.
I really agree with that. The culture fit is such a big part of interviewing, and I think a lot of times you want to focus so much on what hard skills do I have filling out my resume, but so much of interviewing and getting those connections is about soft skills. So it's really about how you present those soft skills as well, and your communication style, and how you connect with people on a personal and more one-on-one level in an interview. But as far as someone that, you know, I am fresh out of school and was interning a lot, the trends that at least I saw and noticed in marketing were data analytics is huge, SEO is huge, and again, being able to have some kind of automation. I worked a lot with Eloqua, and that was really helpful. Coding is really helpful if you know how to use HTML, even if it's not on a super high level use of HTML. I use it to code emails, and things like that come in handy so much. So once you've really solidified yourself on the soft skills and feel like you can go into an interview and rock it and have a power statement that you can end with and really connect with people, focus on those hard skills that are really up and coming right now for marketing, like analytics, like design, like coding. And that's really, I think, valuable right now. Did you want to?
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of piggyback off what Emily was just saying. One of the cool things about having an agency is you get to work with a lot of different clients in different industries. So you're always learning like new stuff, which is really fun. So one of my clients is an executive coach. She specializes in emotional intelligence, helping leaders raise their emotional intelligence. Soft skills is part of that. If you can raise your EQ, you are going to be successful in your career. There are numerous studies out there showing that skills are secondary. Your intelligence is secondary or tertiary to having a really high EQ. So that's something definitely I would look into.
What's EQ?
Emotional intelligence, self-awareness. It's understanding how you're feeling and why you're feeling it, being able to read other people. That plays into your interpersonal relationships. So you can, let's say you're in a meeting and someone says something really rude. You notice what's happening. You realize, okay, that person just sounded like a dick, but I'm leading this meeting and the meeting's going well. And so I'm going to carry forward, stay focused, and then I'm going to talk to this person offline. That's hard to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, going off of what she said, I guess, about, Emily and you said, you talked about, being likable, and you said when you come in, when your employer asks you, like, I'm interested in analytics, like, what are your thoughts? I know a lot of people say, like, when you get into a new job, you have to have a mix of being humble and, like, taking orders, but also being able to give suggestions. So what, in your experience, how have you balanced the two of, I know I'm new to the company and I want to learn, but also like these are my ideas. So you're not going in as a new person and like looking like you knew everything.
Who wants to take that?
I think as the youngest one here, I'm guessing straight out of school, it's something that I think that it's important to know that yes, you are young and the first 5 years of your career is to be teachable and is to learn and is to absorb from the people around you that have so much for you as far as mentoring you to be the best professional that you can be, but also don't undermine your own capabilities and the value of your voice, because they have hired you for a reason and they want you to add that to the conversation for a reason, but don't lose humility in all of that, because again, it's about being able to say, yes, I'm young, and yes, I'm here to learn, but also you're here for a reason, and you were brought on for a reason. So having the confidence that you do have an opinion that is valued and matters is something that I think is important. And I think for me, starting out in my career, I've never felt like I've walked into a room and was underestimated or didn't feel valued. But at the same time, it is again about reading the moment and reading the people you're around. And there are some times when you're going to be brought into situations where you're there to contribute, and other times where you're there to listen and to learn. And being able to gauge those times is am I in a meeting right now to talk and to share my ideas, or am I in this meeting just to hear what people are saying? And gauging, using that emotional gauge and figuring that out. But don't ever underestimate that your voice is valuable and that you have something to contribute in a situation to the company you're working with. I don't know if anyone wants to.
Just one last thing to add. What you said was beautiful. It was perfect. I think it also depends on the environment you're in. And I hate to be the one to take it there, but the way the job system works is not always fair. And your voice, while very important, is not always going to be heard. So you need to also understand there is times when you want to speak up and you have the ability to speak up and you can't. It's that emotional intelligence that allows you to understand that there are times when now is the time to stand up and say something, or I really need to take this to the head of my department or HR or in private, or pay attention to your environment is my point. Is be very understanding of the environment you're in. Okay?
Yeah, sorry, last thing, I swear. I would say one thing that's helped me in my career and progressing through it is very early on, I started to kind of notice the other successful people at the company. So if you kind of figure out, you'll figure out who the rock stars are in whatever organization you're working out pretty quickly. People will reference them a lot. People will call on them a lot, and just sort of take note of how they are handling themselves in meetings and things like that, because clearly something has worked for them. I'm not saying to do exactly what they do, but pull things from all of the people that you admire in your job, and then you're going to start to form kind of what kind of employee you are too. But that's always helpful, just to see what kind of your environment is.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, I have very strong feelings about this. I think, so first part of the question, and I'll keep this brief, I started at an ad agency. I thought that's what I wanted to do out of school because it sounded very sexy to me to be an advertising executive. But for me, I found that was not as gratifying for me in the advertising agency that I fell into, because it was a little bit more art than science. So everything we were doing, there was a reason for it, but it wasn't always measurable. And I'm someone that likes to see the results of things. So that moved me into more of a marketing agency. And I really recommend to anyone that wants to get into marketing, starting at an agency for a few reasons. One is you will get a breadth of exposure versus just the depth in one particular industry. I thought, again, I wanted to be in advertising till I was in it. I also thought that I wanted to work in high tech. But I started working with Microsoft and realized I hated it as a client, and I loved retail. So who knew? I wouldn't have known that if I didn't have that breadth of exposure. The other thing is doing agency work earlier in your career is going to teach you work ethic. It's going to teach you, you're going to work around the clock. You're going to kind of put the hours in, but it really truly does pay off in your next step. So I think that if you're interested, but you're not exactly sure what you want to do, that's always a good first job. And you might hate it, but you'll at least have a little taste of different types of marketing. Yeah. I don't have my master's and I have 0 certifications. I wouldn't look at that certification piece. I personally don't take it too, I don't want to say too seriously. I think it's very admirable if you go through the process to get certified in something. But I've also hired a lot of folks that have said they're certified in a specific software or tool and really pushed to it. They really weren't. They really didn't know a lot. They did the certification just to get the certification, but actually practicing it and understanding it. So can be a little misleading. I think education, super important. How are you doing in school, what your grade, what your GPA was. But job experience is ultimately going to be what gets you to your next career path, I think.
This is the topic that I am very passionate about, actually. Being a current student, I've seen what the marketing track looks like here. And Mason has done a fantastic job of incorporating what is necessary for the marketing world right now, but not a lot of colleges do that. And maybe I'm biased because I'm a Mason patriot, but I have 7 years experience in the marketing industry without a degree, and I have certifications, and that's saved me, and that's gotten me into some pretty high-profile positions before. I'm a marketing director now. I've been a marketing director for a multi-million-dollar pharmaceutical company. It's about what you can bring, and it's about that experience. However, I will never, ever tell you that your education is not pertinent. because at the end of the day, they're going to ask you, do you have that 4-year degree? They will.
And don't lie about it.
Yeah.
Byron, could you maybe speak to that, especially in a lot of the students in the room, if they decide to stay in the Northern Virginia area, are going to work for contractors, are going to go work maybe on a proposal, and the importance then of sticking with degrees and certificates in order to get that contract finished.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. A couple of things. I just took quick notes here. And I remember I'm coming from a different angle, not just marketing. I just left this morning, for an example, interviewing a young lady for a position with our company, recent college graduate from George Mason, actually. And we're looking to expand the marketing aspect of our business, but our marketing is different. We do marketing from the standpoint of federal contracting. In this local area, that's probably a lot of what you're going to run into in a typical company. Now, if you go into an agency or an ad agency or a marketing agency, that's a different story. But if you go to a Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, SAIC, and a lot of the other 6,000 small businesses in the area, you're going to find that they're going to be looking for your certifications and your skills and your ability to master those skills. It's one thing to say that you're certified in Microsoft, as an example, or HTML or a language, whatever. It's a different thing than being able to actually use the language practically. In other words, when you come out of school, oftentimes you've got the skill, you've gone through the classes, you got the degree, but you don't have the skill in actually applying it. So getting the certification while you're in school, in this interview this morning, for example, I asked did they have the Microsoft certifications, and they didn't. And I said, well, you've had 4 years in college and you want to work, in our case, as a software developer, but you don't have the Microsoft certifications. And the answer was, well, they didn't offer it in school. Well, that's part of the thing that you have to look at. What do you need to do to improve your career? And I'm not saying take away from your school. That's critically important, and a degree is absolutely essential. But don't overlook the fact that certifications will help tremendously, especially in the contracting area. Because when we do federal contracts, we have to have software engineers, for example. Well, they have to be able to code, not just say, well, I've taken C++, for an example, or .NET. No, and I just hired a young lady doing web development for one of our clients, and she had, quote, .NET experience. But yet when she sat down to have to do application coding, she couldn't do it. And that's tragic, because she took the class and got the certification with no understanding of how do I use it? What's the practical application? Can I do something with it? So if you're going to get the certification, and they're critical to have, make sure you can use the certification and have some depth of experience, even if it's a program in school, you're coding up something for a professor or whatever, and make sure you get that skills, because it's being able to use the certification that I think is most important. I take a quick one at this one? If we just got started, for example, in this one thing right here, this device is becoming phenomenal. And when I say phenomenal from a business standpoint, it's very good communication, that sort of thing, obviously. But from a communication standpoint, in the business environment, we're using the mobile device, the mobile applications far more than I ever anticipated. And 5 years down the road, that's going to be even more critical. So using a device, learning how to use the device and all the power in that little device is phenomenal. And right now, for an example, in our company, we just transitioned to where all timesheets, all your daily work activities are logged online in an application and submitted to the company for you to get paid. Well, if you don't know how to use the device and use the application, haven't taken that next step to the skill to actually use it other than, Twitter or Facebook and so forth, you're at a loss, because there's a lot of applications on this device that are free that you want to learn while you're going to school. So I think that's important to learn this little device right here. It's really, really, really important.
Yeah. I completely agree with the cell. I think mobile is only going to progress, because not only are people on their phones all day long, they're also multi-devicing after, you've got your phone and you've got your laptop, you're watching TV and you have your phone. People are also doing what they call web rooming and showrooming in retail, where you're actually in a store, but then you're on your phone looking for a better deal for exactly what you're looking at in front of you. So That's why retailers are starting to use things like beacons that know that you're in their store based on your cell phone and can serve you up an ad for a sale while you're there to try to get you to the counter with what you're looking at. So I think it's getting to the devices that are in the hands. And, somebody that did that really well is Starbucks. Starbucks has the best app and has won a ton of awards for their app, but they solved one simple thing, which was the reach to your wallet to pay for your coffee. Everyone was in line with their phones, and they created an app where you could just pay with your phone versus actually having to get your money out. And it's just, it solved one small thing. Yeah, it's efficiency. Exactly. It's convenient, exactly. And people want things faster.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a whole nother topic. I don't know if we're the best ones to answer, talk about identity theft. What I wanted to say about mobile first, which is what, Byron and Becky have already talked about, the cool thing for marketers about mobile first, cool or difficult depending on your viewpoint, it forces you to be as simple as possible. You look at a website on your desktop versus your mobile phone. Which one's cleaner? Which one's easier to use? Mobile, obviously, right? Then all the social media networks, I think my feeds are better on my mobile device than they are on my desktop. I don't know why. I look at Facebook on both, and Facebook knows that, but why is my feed, why do I see more recent stuff on my mobile device? I don't know, but I think that's really neat, and this whole with mobile first, and God knows how it's going to change in the future, right? We've got smartwatches. How is that going to change? How is it going to make things simpler? How is it going to it's about the user experience, right? How is the user experience going to improve? How are we going to make the user interface better for a more seamless transaction or engagement or experience?
Remember, the next Mark Zuckerberg is sitting out here, not here.
Yeah, definitely not me.
Oh, yeah.
Facebook does it. Do you guys work with that? Facebook to get your ad for that specific person?
I will say that online advertising is a niche that we don't specialize in, so I'm just going to pass.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very specialized.
Yeah, it's
Talk about retargeting.
Oh, absolutely. Retargeting and remarketing it has grown exponentially over the last couple of years, and it is essential in advertising for businesses nowadays. And every time you Google something and then you see it in Facebook, it's because we've put it out for you to see. And every time you see that again, it just puts it in your head once more. Oh, I really want that chicken and rice soup from Panera today. And we continue to do that because it keeps us front of mind. You have a trip coming up. Well, I'm going to want you to visit my website. I'm going to constantly hit you with information. And by the time you're finally ready to decide, you'll click on my ad or you'll click directly to my website because I'm constantly in front of you.
How are you constantly giving people this information?
It's all generated online. It's through coding. It's through advertising. You can buy slots.
Basically, it's a cookie. When you visit a website, you will kind of get a cookie attached to your IP address so that we can then follow where you go. This sounds really Big Brother, but this is how it works. And I've worked with retailer Saks Fifth Avenue. They have in their remarketing plans, they're very strategic about how much they're willing to give away. If they know you've come to their site 3 times looking at the same thing, one of their first tactic is going to be they're going to give you a small kind of offer, like this is going on sale, but a small amount because it's Saks and they don't give a lot away. And then there's a price that they're willing to go down to get you to buy that because they know you're interested and you're kind of teetering on it because you've been back to their site 3 times. So their strategy says third time they come to the site, we're giving best and final offer to them. And it can be on an ad, but they also can, in a lot of cases, send you an email as well. You might notice that you'll get emails like from Amazon. If you search for something, they're great at it, from them, and they'll send you, hey, don't forget, this is on sale type thing.
Yeah.
Sponsorships, product development, analytics, 3 that come to mind.
Trade shows, publications, all that is used heavily.
Brand management.
Market research.
Graphic design, web development. I mean, everything can be considered marketing nowadays, because the lines have been blurred so much. Customer development, customer service.
Loyalty.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Email marketing, social media. That's marketing.
That's why getting a breadth of exposure will help you.
I'll give you from the academic side. So anything that touches the consumer, the customer, is going to be in the marketing interface.
Yeah.
So as soon as you're in that area, that falls under our domain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since you guys just said that basically anything could be considered marketing, have you hired or worked with someone in your marketing team that didn't exactly get a degree in marketing?
Oh, absolutely.
I don't have a degree in marketing.
I don't have a degree in marketing.
I started here with a degree in chemistry.
Yeah. I was a business major. I'd have to go back and look at all of my teams. Go back and look at the initial interviews and look them up on LinkedIn because I don't. But one of the people on my team, Emily, I love her to death. She's one of the best writers I've ever met. She's a recovering academic. She has a PhD in philosophy. She was a philosophy professor. Philosophy requires a lot of thought, so much that your head would explode, right? But you have to be able to communicate what you're thinking. I mean, there's a lot of, when it comes down to it, almost any degree requires a little bit of marketing skills. Like what Byron said earlier, you have to be able to write. It does not matter what industry you're in. You have to be able to write. You have to be able to communicate. My daughter's in high school now, but when she was in middle school, they would have a career day. And so I'd speak to a bunch of kids who were half asleep because it was first thing in the morning. It was like 7:30 in the morning. And I would wake all of them up by saying what I just told you. You have to be able to communicate. And they're like, oh, my God. I'm like, you have to pay attention in English class. And that nearly killed most of them.
Yeah.
That's a great question. I was involved in a little bit of everything. I definitely have a personality that I like to get my hands in everything and try everything out, and I think it's the best way for you to learn, especially when you're young, and especially because marketing can be such a broad term nowadays. So for me, I interned a lot. I did 6 internships in my 4 years at Mason, and really focused on making them all different. So I interned in education, I interned in tech, I interned in entertainment. I really tried to diversify what I was doing so that I could see industry to industry what I liked, but also field to field. I did PR, I did media, I did more analytics and automation. But then on campus, I was involved in a handful of things here. I worked in admissions all 4 years. I was a student ambassador. I was in a couple humanitarian clubs, and I got involved. If you're looking for something to really get started, I started out doing consulting here at Mason. They have a couple really great student consulting firms, and that really gave me a lot of great insight into seeing, first of all, you work with a lot of different brands and a lot of different companies when you do consulting, and we had different projects every semester, and it really helped me see, okay, I'm going to work with an events company this semester, and then work in nonprofits this semester. But I would say dive in and do everything that you can, and learn it all and absorb it all while you can, because you have so many resources here. But at the same time, remember that you're a human being, and make sure that you commit to things that you can give 100% to. Because in my opinion, while it's great to have a super thick resume that has a ton of things on it, if you only gave 20% to a ton of things, it's less valuable than if you were able to commit to a handful of things that you're really passionate about here on campus and give 110. And I remember when I was a freshman or sophomore, someone told me, invest in things that you can see by your senior year being in a leadership position in. Because cool, it's great that you're involved in the writing club, but it's really valuable, especially if you're looking to start interning, to say that you're president of the writing club, you know what I mean? And to say that you have those commitments where you have actionable things that you did in college as a leader, shows a lot of initiative to hiring managers when you're coming straight out of school. But if I could give you any advice while you're here, is to intern and figure out what you're passionate about, because you find that out when you're working and when you're meeting these people that have great experiences and skills that you can learn from. But
when should you start interning?
I think you should start interning whenever you feel that you're ready. I think it's a different question for anyone, and everyone's life looks so different day to day. So if you feel that you're on top of your curriculars, and you feel that you're doing well in your classes, and you're ready to push yourself into a little bit busier of a schedule, that's a different time frame for everyone.
Yeah, in the back.
That's a hard question.
Actually, I can, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead, Ashley.
I will not sit here and tell you that there is such thing as a day-to-day. Okay? Every company is going to be different. I have never gone into a job and it's been like it was at my last job. And typically in marketing, because of how quickly it evolves, and depending on what kind of situation you're in, whether you're in a startup like I am, or if you're in a well-developed company like Discovery or Eagle Bank or Mr. Byron's company, the more developed it is, the more day-to-day you're going to get. But even then, I can't promise that. But in a startup environment, things change like that, and you need to be able to change with it. So the most day-to-day you're going to get is checking your email in the morning.
Yes. So I didn't major in marketing. I majored in business. And when I graduated from college, like decades ago, I mean, it was literally last decade, it was 1997, the job market sucked. So I had to take whatever job I could. And like Becky, like I wanted to work in an ad agency because it's super sexy. And they're like, oh yeah, you start at $16,500. And this is 97, but that was nothing. It was like literally nothing then. Yeah, it was nothing then. And I'm like, screw that. So I worked in finance and it was horrible. But let me tell you I'll tell you what my day-to-day looks like now, because it's fairly steady just because of where I am with my company. Check email first thing in the morning, Facebook on my desktop, then I check it on my phone. You guys already know that by now. And so I don't work directly with clients all the time because I have a team now who really executes on a lot of stuff. So I really focus on business development and then maintaining relationships with clients. There's a few clients I still work directly with. There's 3 of them because I have so much institutional knowledge. It would be too hard to hand it off. One of my clients is an options trader. I know I just said I hated finance. I didn't know options trading was a thing. I'd never heard of it when I met him 4 years ago, and now I can talk about options trading ad nauseum. So if anyone wants to know about options trading, ask me afterwards. If you look at my calendar, it's one-on-one meetings with my team every week. It is I've got time blocked off to work on marketing for Janssen Communications. I have time blocked off to reach out to past clients and active clients just to say, hey, what's going on? What are you working on right now? Let's have lunch. Let's have coffee. Let's have just chat on the phone. And so that's what my day looks like. So it's different day to day, obviously, but those are the activities that I work on.
I would say for you in your first job, you can probably expect a lot of note taking and a lot of research, honestly. And when I say research, I don't necessarily mean research reports. I mean Googling what is blah, blah, blah. I did it all the time. I would be on conference calls hearing acronyms, Googling it right then to try to sound like I knew what I was doing. So I think that the more you progress in your career, the more strategic you become and the more you're making decisions about marketing and what the strategy is going to be. But you may kind of at the start be responsible for smaller pieces and executing on someone else's vision. Post these 3 things on Facebook today and maybe give some ideas on how we could get more fans or followers or et cetera. So, but I do think definitely to set expectations, note taking and research will probably be in your future.
Can you, Becky, you remind me of something. Can you guys talk about the importance of understanding the lingo coming out of college in the different silos? Because that blew me away when I first started getting a job and how quickly I had to learn to get up to speed in acronyms and kind of how they can improve on those skills.
Yeah, one of my best friends always says, fake it till you make it. And that is what I did. I mean, it's important. It's absolutely important to know, and people expect you to know because they're looking at you to be the expert. But you won't know. So you just have to learn and you have to find out. And so even today in the banking, I work at a bank now and I still don't know all the acronyms. I was in a meeting this morning and anytime I don't understand something, I write it in my notebook. And the second I leave, I go look it up, or I'll look it up on my phone during the meeting very discreetly. But it is important. But the things that will help you with that, too, are signing up for some regular, like, American Marketing Association newsletters. And the more you read about trends, you're going to start to pick up on what the vernacular is and what people are saying and what the trends are. But you won't know it all right away. I'm still learning.
So different industry to industry as well. So,
And even not only industry to industry, but company to company. I actually just had a meeting with a client who threw at me all of the big C acronyms. We need a CRM, a CMS, an SEO, and we need all of this by yesterday. And I said, oh, okay, well, those are pretty common across the industry. However, he said, we need to set up campaigns. And I said, okay, well, in order to do that, we need to do this. He goes, wait, what are you talking about? That's not what I'm asking for. And I said, well, that's what a campaign is. So understanding what your company understands is the lingo is also important so that you guys can come to an understanding across the board. There isn't that gap of communication.
Any other questions? Yeah.
So when you're looking through resumes to hire, your new whatever employee, I definitely understand that you want to meet all the expectations that the job is asking for. But what makes you want to hire? So you have 100 people that all meet these expectations. But what makes that one person you're going to call or the 3 people you're going to call those people?
Very good question. I said just went through an interview this morning for hiring. It's our 7th interview, and we have probably 15 more candidates, all well suited for the job. The biggest thing that I look for, and that the staff that works for me, I believe, look for, again, depending upon what the specific job requirement is. Obviously, each job is different, but generally speaking, number one is initiative. Do you display initiative? Are you looking to help that organization succeed? Oftentimes, I have people in the interview, they say, well, I'm looking to come to an organization that might provide me a rewarding career. Wrong focus. Wrong focus. We're not trying to hire you to provide you a rewarding career. We're trying to hire you to provide us a rewarding career. So my point is, the initiative is important, and the other thing is understanding the interview process. You're there not so much to sell your skills about yourself, but to sell your skills of what you can do for that company. What can you do for that organization? How can you be a value-added participant? What can you do to make their organization better? Back to the acronym questions. I live in a world of acronyms. Trust me, the federal government, it's unbelievable. And when you work with the Department of Defense, which is the military side of the government, if you will, and then you transition over to the civil side of the federal government, which we work probably 60% in, that's all they have is acronyms. The NAS and the FAA and the FAR and the DFARS. And I could talk to you all along in the sentence and never use a word. You wouldn't know what I'm saying. But I could talk to somebody in my industry. They'd know instantly what I'm saying. Learn the acronyms. If you're going to get a job and stay in this area locally, we're remember, we're recession-proof here. We've gone through 3 recessions in my working career and lifetime, and I've never seen a recession in this area. Yet I've seen it everywhere else in my company. So that's another thing to consider yourself when we talk about job applications and interviewing. If you're going to stay here locally, that's something you want to take into consideration of who you interview with, what you're looking for, where are they headquartered, where are they centered. And that may help you as well. But the main thing is I look for initiative, where that's displayed in what you've done or how you speak, and then what can you do for the company. When you put it that way, you rise above the other candidates. Very simple.
I completely agree with everything you just said. One practical piece of advice, a lot of the bigger companies are using HR software to screen resumes, right? All companies are not sitting there and scouring over every single resume. So to get through the first hurdle, oftentimes these software programs are looking for, are there keywords from the job description that show up in their resume? So I would encourage you to customize your resume each time you submit it based on what the job description is. I'm not saying copy and paste it verbatim, but I'm saying weave in some of those phrases because you want to get to that next stage. Getting in the door is the hardest part. I have no doubt you guys will knock it out of the park when you're there for an interview, but getting your resume through the door can be challenging in and of itself.
Getting the interview. In fact, one more thing I'll mention. I have a course that I teach to the industry at large, not necessarily through college, called Employ You. EMPLOYOU, Employ You. And it deals with 3 simple focuses. Number 1, resume. If your resume isn't proper, you're not going to get an interview. And you'll sit out for a year or 2 or 3, and I've had several people come to me through the Employ You class because they couldn't get a job. And it come to find out it wasn't that they didn't have the skills, they didn't know how to present the skills in writing the resume. That goes back to that communications I talked about. The second thing is, in your resume, when you prepare the resume, the keywords are critically important, but for the industry you're looking for. So if you're going to go looking, as I said, in an ad agency, you want to look in that industry to see what are they about, what do they do, what are their trends, what are they looking for. And in the job posting, and it's amazing to me how many people don't really read it, the job posting, your resume has to match. You have to look at the job posting and modify your resume. Too many people take the same resume, and I've set several classes when I taught college for 9 years. One of the things the students would come in, they'd take one resume, they'd send it to 100 employers, and then come back to the student affairs saying, I don't know why I'm not getting a job offer. Well, because that one resume doesn't fit 100 employers. If it's one, if you're lucky. So look at the job requirements, go online, do a search of all the job openings. By the way, in D.C., I looked this morning, there's 26,494 jobs opening right now for marketing in the D.C. area, various aspects of marketing. How do I know that? I have a software system that I use called GovWin. GovWin announces what opportunities have been won, contracts, and they're looking to fill those contract positions. But they're not a job or an opportunity in the company. They're a job or an opportunity working for the federal client on site. So you're really working and bidding for that job opening. So watch the job recs and look and tailor your resume to fit that requirement. Very important.
I have one last piece to add, actually. And I absolutely agree with everything that's already been said. Really, if your resume doesn't even hit my desk, then you're SOL. But when I have 100 resumes that all look the same, they fit the criteria, I mean, they may work, they may not. What I'm looking for is not only the initiative, but the attitude. Something that I see with a lot of younger people coming into the industry is, and that doesn't give me a whole lot of confidence, and it's scary. It is. and it doesn't matter how many times you do it. It's exciting and it's terrifying because you're literally putting your life on a piece of paper and saying, please hire me because this is why. But if you come into the interview, and I don't want you to go in being cocky because that automatically gets you a kick out the door, and I'm not going to take 2 looks at you. But come in with confidence, knowing that you meet the description. You're in for an interview because you meet the description. I want to know that you can not only bring your A game, but you can present it and you can communicate it and give me something to be confident in that I can take to my boss and say, hey, we're kicking ass.
Something that we haven't talked about yet today, surprisingly, we're going to talk about it now. And this is something that I look for in the people who join my team, is you have to be responsive and you have to meet deadlines. If you promised a client a first draft or deliverable on X date, and you go to your team member who's leading it and say, hey, where is this? Oh, yeah, I didn't have time. It's like, come on. So that's a really big deal to me, because if you're letting down clients, if you're letting down other people within your team, like if you work for a company, the marketing agency is supporting the sales team, and maybe operations a little bit too, then you're letting down a lot of people within a company, and that eventually is going to come back to you, and it's not going to be pretty.
I'm getting word that they're wanting us to kind of wrap up and give those things. Let me lead with one last kind of question for the panel, then we'll end it. What would be, and our students here, who in here is graduating in spring? Okay, one person. Who's graduating in a year? Who's graduating in 2 years? Right. So they have time on their hands. If you could go back, and I know you're still in school, but if you could go back and you had the ability to learn one more skill in college, what would you do right now to advance your career?
Effective writing.
I'd learn how to code. Yeah. Just pick a language.
So I did just finish my degree. And the one class that I wish I had taken was the analytics class, because having to learn it on your own, it's something I do every day, and it's so valuable. And it's something almost no one else on my team knows. So I wish I had taken the analytics class here.
What exactly is an analytics?
Well, we can talk about it after.
Yeah.
I would say analytics, and also probably psychology. I would get a little deeper there and how people are making decisions, why they're making decisions. If you can get into the mind of the consumer, you can be a little bit smarter about how you talk to them. So that's personally what I would do.
Being a student currently, I still have the option to go back and say, oh, I need to take that class. I agree. I feel like I would go back and take psychology. Because that's what marketing is. It's getting people to react to your company and your product based off of their own needs and desires. If you don't understand those needs and desires, you can't market to them.
Okay. Well, thank you guys very much for coming. Thank you to the panel. Let's go ahead and give them a round of applause for taking time out of their busy day. We really do appreciate it. We know how valuable your time is. So thank you very much. Thank everybody for coming. I encourage you guys, as long as they're here, to network, talk with them offline, and you never know where it's going to go.
All right. Oh, I need to stand. That was a lot of sitting. Yeah, of course. Here, let me get out from behind the tables. So are you a sophomore?
I'm a junior.
Oh, okay. Cool. I'm on the Nice to meet you.
So,
I just got my associate. Hi, I'm Becky. Nice to meet you too. Hey.
accounting to a requirement.
Okay.
So that's a form of
Great.
marketing. That's why I say it's like the brand. We market USDA. Technology.
Okay.
It's a matter of
Okay. Yeah. I'd be happy to. Do you want me to give you my card? And then you can email me? Yeah. Here you go. You're welcome. Just email me. That's the easiest way. And then we can just set up the interview. And yeah, I'm happy to. Okay. No problem. I'd be happy to. No problem. Good luck in your last couple years. It's going to be, it goes by fast. Yeah. And you're going to want to go back when you're out. So. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm sure you're going to have a great couple of years. So I'll look forward to hearing from you. Nice to meet you. Hi. I'm Becky. Nice to meet you. So, by the way, it's not as sexy and glamorous, but I will say, personally, I miss it a little bit. I have a little one at home, and I was so burnt out from it. There's something so exciting about traveling, being in airports, and flying to LA for the day, and then up to San Francisco. And so when you work in an agency, often, especially when you're not working with local clients, you're working with bigger clients, you're expected to be on site. And so not all of the time, but for big meetings and things like that. So oftentimes it's quick trips to wherever for the presentation. Sometimes it's literally flying across the country for an hour meeting. My parents used to think this was the craziest thing in the world. Like, why couldn't you just do it on the phone? They're paying me to do this. So, yeah. So, that's basically what it is. And the more senior you get, the more people want to see you and talk to you in person, have you at their boardrooms, et cetera, and present. But most of the times that travel comes with a lot of preparation because you're going to actually present something. It's not just to go up and like sit and listen to a meeting. It's like you're the show. So there's a little, the trips back are always like have a glass of wine on the plane because it's over. But on the trips there, it's like you're prepping on the plane, you're doing some work. If you do go that route, I highly recommend signing up for every loyalty program there is because you can start racking up miles and yeah. Yeah, I would look if you, particularly in all the job descriptions, they should put what percentage of travel they expect. Anyone that says 10% or less, they typically mean that. When they get into like, it's going to be like 30 or 40%, you can expect that to definitely be the case, if not.
Oh yeah, I tend to always follow me.
And it doesn't happen steady. It's not like every Tuesday and Thursday you're traveling. It's like, oh shoot, this week I'm supposed to be at Microsoft in Seattle and at Saks, which is in. How do I do all of that? Yeah. So, but it's like again, if you like traveling, it's exciting. And early in your career is when to do it because it's much harder for me now.
Say you want to get married.
But then when I was single and working hard and work was sort of my life. I loved it. Yeah. You get friends with kind of build relationships with coworkers and you go out for nice dinner. Oh yeah. You also get to see other industries too and see how they operate in their offices too.
So I'll go do a program. I'll get all my interns.
Years at my last job. I was doing all of the travel.
It's amazing. And I love it.
No problem. Good luck. Yeah. If you have, I'll give you my card. If you have any other questions, you can definitely let me know. And when you're ready to start looking for jobs, I can definitely help you point you to some jobs I know that would require travel.
So I'm I'm an affiliated faculty with the GovCon group from John Hilton. So that's where my research is. And it's what I'm seeing is we can blend this idea of let's do research in this space. It's never really been done. And then connect these for our students for other things around, leverage the brand
Yeah.
that is George Mason.
Well, it's all going to be LinkedIn.
In fact, one of the things I've tried to say
Yeah.
to people here, and I haven't really trusted a lot of these
Honestly, yeah. So I would just start connecting with people
can help a lot of us people graduate and get
that are connected to somebody else, but then just get there. Yeah, exactly.
look at it differently.
And you can look up what big industries are in wherever you're going to move and see if anyone in your network is that. And I would encourage you to LinkedIn with me because then you can see all of my network too. And it might come up as a second connection to you. And you can say, hey, Becky, do you know blah, 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 your connection? And could you put it in for me? And that's how it works.
More about what industry you're looking for.
Yeah. So good luck. Yeah. Enjoy college because it goes so fast.
In federal contract. Now they know skill or marketing or whatever, they know about it. They have the buzzwords.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
No, absolutely. Yeah, and with your background in statistics.
I totally recommend it. I hired a lot of undergrads that did internships abroad.
So for me, when I'm teaching the
or just even
all,
studying
about
abroad,
half
and I
of
think
them
it's
want
amazing. I think it just shows that you're open for
They're gonna be-
things, like a challenge. I think it's a good thing.
And eventually I had to sit down and I was like,
Yeah, no problem.
time to
Hi.
This one's good. This one really gets
Yeah,
into,
that's pretty name. My name's Becky.
very interesting.
I have 4 years all in statistics, and yet I'm 3 years out and it's already past.
Oh, I didn't actually go to those. They were my clients.
Now are
Yeah,
so
I was
far
actually
ahead.
at my last job for 10 years. But I ran a lot of our retail customers. So Saks and Office Depot were clients of mine, as was
You
Neiman
learn a
Marcus.
lot of it on the job. Like the firm almost has to train you.
I was recruited. A recruiter called me and said they're looking for a CMO. You worked with Capital One and HSBC, so you have that kind of background. And
Oh yeah, I know.
was pregnant at the time, and I was like, I think if I'm going to make a switch, probably now is the right time. So it was kind of a life stage. Well, and I also wanted to be, personal goal was to be a CMO by the time I was 40. So it kind of worked out.
As we bring them in, it's funny. As I said, the lady I just talked this morning, on her second interview, she came in for the first interview. I was fairly well. She's using hard charges, all the right signals. So I brought her back for a second interview. And between the previous interview, which was 10 days ago, to now, it's a different world.
I mean,
Everybody kind of, an angle on. Come back and if you do a second interview, I know what you do.
actually,
What can we do better?
no, I actually did options.
But with the difference of night and day, and since she nailed it, and everybody said, "Can you believe it? She said we should do this. Pass the door, blah blah blah."
Yeah,
That
I
means
think you need to.
that's what you're looking for.
The problem is it's going to be a time suck, but I think you need
One industry, do some research up there.
experience somewhere else. Even if it's, I don't know what your schedule's like there, but even if it's a couple weeks intern, like just to get a quick snapshot of what they're doing there, I think that's going to be really important, especially if you definitely know you want to go into marketing. It's a tough
So
situation
anyway, I'm glad I had a chance to
because they're paying for the school, so I get it. But
This experience.
you can
No,
get
true. But
like a
so I
taste
was involved in
of
two
marketing.
startups, so I've only been 10 million in seed capital and all. It's to see that
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah, right.
That to me, and the entrepreneurs have a different view.
Yeah.
Or my boss is a serial entrepreneur. 3 companies all do about 150, 200 million.
Yeah.
And as you know, it'd be extremely rare.
You're ahead in
Capital One. Yeah. They're local.
I've been
And
on 5 years. It's my
oh,
fourth
you
company.
do? Okay. Yeah.
Bought a
Yeah.
company.
Right.
And I tell my students this all the time. Maybe not so much here. In DC, you have to get
Right,
the
right, right.
But in
Yeah.
Seattle and Portland,
I think you should really put kind of in your resume, especially at the very top part, your desire for marketing, your desire to learn, your desire to do whatever is like kind of needed, and then try to spin what you're doing now with some kind of
he always talks
marketing.
about like
even though you're not doing any marketing right now, there's always a way to say, this is kind of what you're learning and how you can tie that into marketing, like communication. So perfect. Those are the things.
It was exactly his point. He's like, I
Like
want somebody
marketing,
who is
play those up. I'm not saying lie. I'm just saying play up the things that are more marketing and play down the things that people would be like, what is that doesn't. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, and if you
I'll
want,
have to get.
I'll give you my card, but I'm happy to look at your resume when you
John
get
sent me something in regards to what he's trying to do.
Yeah, sure.
Our little initiative, because we have some projects and stuff that we're trying to
Don't
do
worry.
in regards,
Life,
especially in
you'll be fine.
like in your space about like recompete
but-
success and stuff like that. Like,
Yes. And by the way, a lot of it is luck. So prepare and have as many interns. Sometimes it's like meeting the right person at the right time or getting into.
yeah, do you know Ann Altman?
My
She was at IBM.
success has been
I know Ann Altman. Yeah.
Okay.
being at the right place at the right time.
So she wants the research
Yeah.
I want to do. It looks at marketing strategies
do.
that predict or that increase the probability of a return, or that a win back.
Win back.
So what we're trying to do is
That kind of
it
stuff.
seems like IBM is
Resume.
involved.
I'll help you. It's just about spinning what you're doing
Ellen, what is
and then getting some other experience outside of that. Yeah. All right. No problem. Nice to meet you.
some firms who actually really want to start looking into this, how we can analyze
Eduardo.
sales tactics, communication efforts that would increase the probability of win back from 60% to 70, 80%. Financial analysts, they said our goal for publicly traded firms is 70%. Like, you know, we could probably beat that by 5%. If you're getting 75 to 80%.
We've won so far, the last 9 years, we've won 4 of our contracts back to back. Twice now. So we've had very, very good success. But really, our case is client relationship. You've got to almost live in the client space. Well, you gotta be yeah.
Sorry, you go. What was your question?
Yeah, because one of the things that's amazing to me is when we get to when we say live with the client space, we're with the client. What do you need to do? What's going on? How are we doing this? Are we doing okay? Is it doing? How can we improve it? What do you have? Almost always they'll say, well, what's the trends today? What's going to happen in, like you said, 5 years? They're telling what's going to happen next year. What's the federal environment going to change like? Who's going to be in political office? I said, if I could answer all those questions, I'd be a zillionaire. But as I explained to myself, here, why don't you do this? Let's look at today, what we have today.
I'll give you my card
Are we
too.
doing a good
If you
job?
have any questions when you get to your resume,
And then tomorrow will take care of itself because we're going to keep track of it
I
tomorrow.
get cards from people all the time, so sometimes I'm like, I have to look down and say, I almost gave you.
I mean, if you aren't marketing with your current clients, you won't get a recompete because it's too competitive. Absolutely. And with the information out there today, you can go on social media and find out about everything about every company you want to find out. The whole day of some information is like, forget about it.
So we have part of my dissertation. So we looked at I love where you are. So I live out in Haymarket. So you're like right next to
What I mean?
one of my. So this is at an advanced round at one of our journals.
Hiring marketer.
That's true. We're trying to bring in the term business
Matter of
development.
numbers would be like,
What we're looking at is ratio of government contracts to total firm revenue.
connections happen.
Basically, say how important is the
being
government?
nice and being open.
I think it's a firm stock return. So we see this variation, and what we're seeing is
I'm a freshman. And enjoy college because it goes so fast. I want to go back every day.
no longer, and we've done some interviews with
Hi,
it.
okay.
Like maybe 15 years ago, it was kind of like a C-level company doing government contracts.
Yep.
These are now rock star companies. Like, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, I said amazing things. So you're never going to know now.
Oh, not anymore. You have to be sharp and on the ball.
Yeah, they want juniors on stage. How did you find it? I did. We were literally just talking about waitress.
I was on
a job of any sort. Until you get into the place where people are hiring for interns, any job experience. It shows that you're willing to work. It shows that you know what it takes to put in like the time. And then when you get to the internship part, that job experience that you had will help you get the internships too, because they want to know that you had a steady job before. You know what I mean? Yeah.
There's all
So some of it's just sort
We
of,
also own.
yeah. But don't waste that time. I mean, and find jobs that are like interacting with people because
A ton of
it's all
digital
about
things. So if
interacting
you've
with
ever
people.
done
So
Facebook and seen like
waiting
Knots or
tables,
the,
working in retail,
Relics
any of
or
those things,
Wellness. I know they do a lot of
it's going to be really
wellness
helpful to you.
stuff and
Yeah.
Dodo
Okay.
and all of that. So
You're
it's really
welcome.
cool to
It's
see,
very
like,
nice to
the
meet you. I'm sorry you
full
missed it,
content
but I think they
creation,
recorded
whether
it.
it's
So
linear or digital
yeah.
or,
No
It's
problem.
really interesting. So it's a great company.
It's a little bit of all or nothing.
I know for me,
Think about the things that you're
I tried